Hi and welcome back. In video number 2, we're going to talk about what increases and decreases conversion rates, refund rates, and support tickets. Because our goal here is to not only increase the profits that you gain from the product and selling the product, but you work so hard to sell the product and get a sale, and then when somebody joins your membership site or your product or whatever you're creating, and they've got so many unanswered questions that you are overwhelmed with hundreds and hundreds of support tickets a day that you're unable to answer them super fast, and that creates a problem. So my goal here is to help you create a product that sells well, but also when the person becomes your customer, instead of frustration, they're happy, and you build that relationship with your customer. You can help your customer, and at the same time they're not looking for a refund because you have fulfilled their expectations. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk about are the mistakes that I've made over the years and what you can do. Now, do not presume that the people that you're talking to are all experts. Do not presume that they all know what you're talking about. You should automatically presume that you have newbies watching. If you presume that you have people that are watching your videos or watching your products or reading your reports and things like that that know nothing about what you are talking about, or you find a way to make it easy for them, then you won't have as many refunds. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I made over the years was to presume that somebody already knew what I was talking about. That is the biggest mistake, because a lot of times if you're creating a product, you know the area so well that you forget that not everybody can understand even the basic stuff. So if you presume that you have newbies watching, then you can pretty much make it so easy for just about anybody to follow. Now, of course, if your video series is like an advanced series and you know for a fact that 100% of the people are experts, then maybe that's okay. But even if 95% of them were experts, 5% of those people could be newbies. So automatically presume that you have newbies that are watching. That if you think that way, then you will be able to fill any gaps, any loopholes, any unanswered questions that people may have. Don't add fluff to a product. I see this over and over again. I see people say put quality over quantity, and I see them say, hey, check out this video product, it's 5 hours or 10 hours long, you get your money's worth. In reality, if somebody buys in because of the quantity over quality, they buy that initially, but guess what? When they have to actually view the videos that are 10 hours long or more, they'll probably be frustrated. So you want to make it so that your product is easy to use for newbies, but at the same time you can get from A to Z at a quicker rate. So don't add fluff if you can't. So if you go through the outline and go step by step, okay, what does this person need to get from point A to point Z? Don't add fluff to the product. So one of the mistakes I made a long time ago was, create this big long video series only to realize that yes, people do buy that because people's perceived value sometimes say more is better, but in reality, once they buy the product and they realize that it's too much for them to handle and then it overwhelms them, then guess what? Refund. Your refund rate just jumps through the roof. So don't add fluff. Make it as simple as possible. And for a fact, this video series, I want to make it as simple as possible so that you get to understand what it takes to create a good product simply and straightforward in a matter of hours. And I don't want to blabber on and on and on. So go straight to the point. Quality over quantity. If you think that, then you will be able to create a good quality product. And a lot of reports, if you notice, you'll see reports online that are just 10 pages long. And I would rather read a 10-page report than a 200-page ebook. Now, there are some people who are like, oh yeah, I paid this much for a 200 ebook. But guess what? Most of the time, those ebooks just sit on people's computers. They never really read it. Or they read 50 pages in and they quit. So think quality over quantity. What are the loopholes? What confuses people about your product? So when you're planning and you're researching, think about that. Ask yourself, what confuses people about your product? Think about the loopholes. Because remember, loopholes, and what I mean by loopholes are just unanswered questions. Unanswered questions equals increase of refunds and an increase of support tickets. Meaning if you don't plan your product creation well, you're going to have tons and tons of refunds and you're going to get tons and tons of support tickets. I remember back in the day, maybe 2 years ago, we launched a product and it was a high ticket product. One of the partners on the project, wanted to do a specific thing, and I thought to myself, well, if we do it this way, then there's going to be a lot of loopholes, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions. And at that time they were thinking, nah, it's going to be okay, whatever. And guess what? When the product released, we sold a lot because obviously it was a big package, but we had a high refund rate and a high support ticket rate. In fact, we were getting literally about 300, 400 emails per day. It was just so exhausting. I was working about 15 hours a day, only to realize majority of that became refunds. So whenever I create my own products, I want to keep in mind, what are the unanswered questions? What are the loopholes? What can I do to decrease the refund rate and make it as simple as possible and put quality over quantity? Now, action steps. You understand the basics now. Let's talk about what you should be doing. Now, this is really easy. First, you want to do your research. If you skip the research, you will fail. Let me give you another example. A product that we launched maybe about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago, I did a joint venture with a couple guys who are doing very well. We're all doing very well, but we spent about 5 months on this project only for me to realize that the research was not done. Now, when I look back, that's why I spend about 80% of the time on research and planning. You don't do your research, you don't do your keyword research, you don't do your competition analysis and profitability analysis. You skip that part, you will fail. That's just as simple as that. Now, here's the process of thinking that I use. Very, very systematic. That's the key word. And that's the answer. Systematic and cumulative. If you think of a product as if it was in steps, like step 1, step 2, step 3, and things like that, then you create a product that is easy to use from A to Z. So what I want you to do is, when you're thinking of a product, I want you to think of the starting point. The starting point is always easy because that's where you begin. Where do you start? Okay, where does a newbie have to start? Then think of the end goal. Don't even think about what's inside of it yet. Think of the end goal. Okay, what is the goal here? What do you want to see this product do in the end result? Like, what are the audiences looking for? What are the solutions they're looking for? So if you think about the starting point, think about the ending goal. That's all I want you to think for right now. And think systematic. Now, what's in the middle? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and so on. You see, the way that I think is, okay, for example, this video series. In order to teach you how to create a product, first, I need to give you an outline about what the product's all about. Step 2, I need to tell you what increases and decreases refund rates, conversion rates, and support tickets, because I know that's vital and that's something that needs to come before creating the product. And then I know research and planning is a vital step. So you can write step by step how you would approach that. And it's okay if you miss out things right now, because in the next video will actually help you on that. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to show you step by step. I'm going to go through and create a product and show you step by step how to go about doing that. You need to make things easier for somebody to get from step 1 to step 10. I mean, there might not be a step 10. You could even think step 1 to step 5. I mean, the shorter the better. And like I said, I'll show you step by step even how I created this particular video product, and show you how fast I'm able to do this. Now you need to list out questions that people are going to have, because that's very important. And there are several steps you can do to find out what kind of questions people have, and I'll show you that later. So your goal is to fill in possible loopholes with a training center. Training center allows you to decrease refund rates, but also decreases support tickets. I've found over the years that the majority of refunds are because somebody has an unanswered question, they're frustrated, they ask it, it takes you 48 hours or less to get back, or even 24 hours for that matter. They're just frustrated and angry. They want a refund now, or they want their question answered right now, or they're going to get a refund. And that's the biggest complaint that I've received. But guess what? If you take those questions and you turn it into a training center, then it just makes your whole life easier. You lower your support, you make the customers happy because you've answered their questions, and the possible loopholes are plugged up